Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
This is Steiny.
Hi.
I'm going through a situation where I am being forced to use a parenting app. Are you familiar with them?
Yes. At one point in time, we tried to get my son's mom to use one as well.
My son.
And how'd that go?
Not well. She did not want to use it, so therefore it doesn't work when you only have one side actively trying to use it.
Well, let me just give a little explanation here. Back before she pulled the OFP stunt to try to get me to cave to her demands, she suddenly and out of the blue stated, I want to use a parenting app. You better figure out which one you want to use. And then the next day she's like, did you figure out which one you want to use yet? This is, 10 days before she serves me with the paperwork, and I don't see our kids for 67 days.
Sure.
We've never had a volatile relationship where we needed a parenting app to keep us from talking to each other. It's always, she's mad, it doesn't want to speak, so she won't answer the phone. I accuse her of purposely dodging my phone calls and texts so that it's impossible to have a conversation about the kids and nothing gets accomplished. And then she doubles down where she gets extra pissed at me for calling her out for acting like a child about the whole thing. So she brought up to the judge that she wanted us to use a parenting app. I'm like, that's not going to work. We need to have phone and text communication also, because on short-term notice, I don't have access to the internet 24/7, even if I did. And I'm not going to be like pulling over to log on and be like, I'm running 5 minutes late to drop the kids off, because that's stupid.
Right.
I could just call her quick and be like, hey, I'm running 5 minutes late. Okay, see you when you get here.
Or send a text. Yeah.
But she'll ignore the text. She won't answer the call. It's very passive aggressive. It's like she's trying to purposely frustrate me to get me to flip out. And I think that's been her plan, is to try everything she can to try to get me to lose my cool so she can say, he has an anger problem still. He's scary. He shouldn't be around the kids. Fuck that.
Any example she can have, she'll use again later. Yep.
And the judge just went with it, right? And judges these days love to make people that they think have chaotic relationships, even if there's a hint and there's no proof, use the apps. To the point where I started to wonder if these app companies were giving kickbacks to local judges and governments to subscribe people to this notion that they need it. Just like DWI Ride Home was a service where you could call a place and they'd come pick you up.
Yep, and they would also drive your vehicle back.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
2-man teams. And then it evolved beyond that to the interlock breathalyzer that they install in all cars now when you get a DUI.
Yes.
DUI Ride Home got bought by the state.
Okay.
Interlock thing was designed by a lawyer, sold to the state. They partnered together, and now they try to give it to everybody. And it almost seems like a conflict of interest. Now, with these parenting apps, the intention is to make communication between parties who have to co-parent from separate households more viable and easy. And there's calendars, and you can keep tabs on who owes what. But like you said, it only works if both parties use it.
Yep.
Now, here's my big gripe about these apps. And it's more of a microcosm of society and where we're at with family courts.
Mm-hmm.
When you have to use an application, you read words on a screen. There's no voice. There's no tone. You don't know if there's a different inflection than what you perceive it to be when reading it on the screen. And you might go off and reply, and you were wrong with your assumption, and you're wasting time. Additionally, they say something to you. You have to reply. The conversation could take days, when if you were just on the phone or texting, could take 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a half an hour back and forth of texting. And what these things do not do is make the situation easier. It just makes it documentable. So some parties see it as, oh, this is going to help us communicate, and then there's proof of what was said, so we never have to question who said what when. And there's other people that use them like, this is my tool to get you. Everything you say, I'm going to show to a judge and hope that she views it through this skewed lens that I do to get you in trouble. And that's what I'm facing right now. I can tell you that. But my point here is, when you do not make people who who have problems communicating learn how to do so, it's at the detriment to the child because they don't have a true co-parenting relationship. I feel like the family court system has become too reliant upon these parenting app technologies to just give them to people and say, figure it out, make it work. Mm-hmm. Well, it wasn't working to begin with, so why would you think that adding a fucking machine into the equation is going to make it better? So they never have to learn how to grow and work through adversity in real time. And it's basically dumbing people's problem-solving skills down, and co-parenting is difficult. It doesn't have to be, but more often than not it is. It depends upon if one party is really hard-headed, or both parties just can't get along, or one refuses to use it like in your case, or it just doesn't fit the mold of the means of communication that we are used to that has worked for us in the past, in my case. So imagine now, the divorce rate being what it is, and then the judges are more often than not saying, you should get a parenting app. The lawyers are like, let's get a parenting app. Maybe there's a guardian ad litem. Have you tried a parenting app? And all these people who normally would have to be frustrated with each other and hopefully learn to mature enough to communicate more effectively for the sake of the child, they no longer have any incentive to do so because they can just fall back on this stupid application.
Isn't that what the app is trying to do? Isn't that the fact that it's all documentable, that the fact that somebody can't delete their texts and screenshot and only give, like a one-sided view of what was really happening? You know what I mean? Isn't that what's supposed to get the people to communicate better, to be better, to mature? Isn't that part of the process?
It's part
right?
of the theory.
Right, because think about it. These apps are not, let's say your case or other people's cases, you get divorced and your kids are still relatively young, right? 8, 6, 8 and 5, 7 and 6, somewhere in their age, right? You're telling me that you're going to continue to use these apps for 11 years for all communications all the way up to the point where they graduate? Hopefully not, right? Hopefully the anger is going to subside. Like you said, you're going to learn how to communicate with each other to where it's not going to be volatile, right? And so maybe the thought is you're only going to use them for a short term, right? For a year or two. In my case, it was basically because of my wife's influence, right? She and my son's mom had a huge beef. And every time I was trying to communicate or we'd have to split funds on something, there was a little bit of an argument. And my wife and our counselor, somewhere outside, again, was suggesting we use a parenting app. I didn't want to do it. My son's mom absolutely did not want to use it, right?
My son.
So it never really took off for us. I saw the main benefit in some of the funds just because that was one point of contention between his mom and I over the years. Like if there was an easy way to split up who's hose what, type of thing, or to get money from each other or to pay things through there, that would have been great. But this was also like a lot of the cash apps, like a Venmo or a PayPal or some other easy way to do it. So even then, it was quickly outdated for us.
And I just think about how it's cold and emotionless dealing with a machine. And we keep outsourcing all of our needs in society to machines.
And the legwork, right? Nobody wants to put forth the effort to do the real counseling anymore or the real help. Let's count on an app.
And I can tell you right now that I suspect that my estranged wife believes that this app is going to be status quo going forward, which would be for another 12 years at a cost of probably $2,500 in total for me, just at the base plan.
Oh, yeah, because that's right. These aren't usually free.
No, why would anybody want to help you for free? That's fucking retarded. And additionally, the problem I've been running into the most is I will say things to her. And it'll be me basically calling her out for something that transpired that I did not agree with.
Okay.
For instance, our son is now in karate. I did not have a hand in that. For background, karate was my thing. I did community karate for like 3 or 4 years. I loved it, but then I had to give it up because we had so many kids and it didn't work with our schedule anymore. And frankly, being a social worker and trying to learn that much my brain was full. I couldn't do it. So I quit. And I asked her about getting him into it. And she's like, no, he already hits people when he gets upset. I'm not going to teach him how to hit and kick people. And lo and behold, a few months later, I'm at her house picking up the kids on my Friday for the weekend. Mm-hmm. And I see on the table, I'm like, what is this? And it's a schedule for a karate place. I'm like, what the hell is this? And our son is like, oh yeah, Dad, I'm in karate now. I'm like, excuse me? Since when? He's like, for a few weeks. And I look at her like, what the hell? You signed him up for karate without talking to me? And she doesn't say anything. And I'm like, okay, so what's the schedule? She's like, it varies. I'm like, so what days does he go? It can change. Very short answers. She's on the spot. She's caught in a lie now, a lie by omission. And I go to take a picture of it, and she yanks it out of my hand. Mm-hmm. She's like, I've warned you about snooping at my house. I'm like, it's literally out in the open. It's a decision you made by yourself that affects our son, and you didn't ask for my input, and you incurred a cost of who knows how much, when community karate would have been 1/10 of that, most likely. I'm not a fan of strip mall karate joints.
Right.
And she's like, you don't have to worry about the cost. She always does this when I raise concerns about money. But she's not, shitting out $100 bills either. So anyways, I mentioned it on the app that my feelings were hurt. She made the decision without me. And I'd like her to kind of answer for it. She ignores it.
And it begins.
And I've had to complain to my attorney numerous times. She's not replying to my messages. She hasn't read them for 2 or 3 days. The last time we were in court, the judge made us both swear we would check it once daily. There's still times when she's not looking at it for up to 72 fucking hours. And then it's just like...
Are you able to prove that when you go back to court?
Yes, because it says when I sent it, and it shows when the other person reads it.
Right, and you've gotten like screenshots of this, or you've...
I can just log on to the app in the courtroom and say, here's this date, and here's that date, and here's this date. If I want to screenshot them, I can do it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, because they actually have like a date, set, date, scene on everything. Okay.
Yeah. And it shouldn't come to this. The other party should be mature enough to have these conversations. And it's a whole nother concept that I'm dealing with now with my attorney about how she's unilaterally making decisions that affect the children without my input, and that flies in the face of what I am owed in terms of my custodial rights. She doesn't have full custody, nothing has granted her sole decision-making power, and she is making these decisions on her own, that it is circumventing my rights as their father, and frankly, she can get in deep shit for this. Because now I'm asking for a hearing to address it. We'll see what her attorney says before we go that route. Mm-hmm. But that's how serious it's getting. The communication has gotten worse. She uses it as an excuse to not talk to me. Say, I'm busy. I didn't have time to check it. I check it every morning, and I check it every noon, and I check it every night.
If she's,
Monday through Friday, weekends, I check it twice.
If she's the party pushing to use this app, she has to be the one using the app. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. She can't just push for it and then not use it. She can't say that this is how we communicate and then not communicate.
Well, it's funny because, she, on my last weekend with the kids, she didn't work like she normally did that Sunday night. Whereas I would drop the kids off to her mom at her house at a certain time. She told our daughter that she would pick them up. But our daughter texted me like, are you picking us up or is Dad dropping us off? And she's like, I'll pick you up. I logged onto the app later, and she had sent me a message on there, I'll pick the kids up, I'm not working. But I don't have a smartphone, and I don't have the app open all the time, and I don't get a notification. I only read that shit when I log on. So what you could have done is sent a text to do that instead, but you're so insistent upon that we need this app to communicate. You're the one that I have said historically has communication issues. You don't speak straightforwardly. You talk in riddles. I'll ask you questions. You don't want to answer, so you'll answer my question with a question. You'll beat around the bush. You'll fuck with my head and my emotions for your own amusement a bunch of times. And it's just infuriating because that app does not work on a laptop for video calls. It only works on phones and tablets.
Okay.
How fucking retarded is that? And I complained, and they're like, yeah, our app at this time doesn't work like that. And I'm like, you guys are fucking idiots. I'm not going to go spend a couple $100 on a tablet or $1,000 on a smartphone just to talk to my kids on video call. because prior to that, we did it via Facebook Messenger, and it was fine. The only reason she wants it in the app is because she paid for the top tier plan where you can record the video calls and get a transcript of what was said.
Oh, sure.
Because everything with her seems to be a gotcha or an attempt to fucking trip me up. And it's just like, why are you thinking only about getting me in trouble as opposed to doing what's best for the children?
Frustrating.
You fucking say the stupidest shit on there, taking the kids in because I think they might have strep. That deserves a phone call. And then I might come with you to the clinic. Oh, you don't want me involved. That's why. You're trying to minimize my ability to make a positive and effectual presence in their life by limiting my communication with you. And now I have the task of getting the judge to see that shit. And I have to hope she's like, are you serious, woman? What the hell? You got an involved father who wants to be there, and you take the kids to the doctor and tell him after the fact, or you tell him and then you go and he doesn't find out until after the fact because you only sent it on the message? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How is that more effective co-parenting?
And I'm only providing this as a counterpoint, but it is going to be expected that there are going to be times where you as a parent, even if things are joint 50-50, you're not going to be there for everything, right? I mean, You're not going to be able to make every doctor's visit. You're not going to be able to make every sporting event, but you're going to try to be there. You're going to try to be involved, right? And I guess maybe her texting you was letting you know, but it doesn't seem like in a way to let you know that you can be there.
She didn't text me.
Yeah.
It was a message in the app.
I'm sorry,
when it
message
should have
in
been
the
a
app.
text.
When it should have been the app. Right. Or I'm sorry, when it should have been a text, right? Exactly, right? It's a way to keep you away from there. Now, it sounds like by way of playing with paying for the top tier plan, she's bought into some level of fear, right? And maybe she's trying to, it sounds like she's trying to amplify that. For what reasons, I don't know. For the court, perhaps.
That's been a continual pattern with her, is trying to be like, he's a danger to me and our children and my pets.
Right.
That's a quote.
And that's going to be why she claims that she wouldn't want you at the doctor's appointment or at these things, right? She's too afraid of you, of what you're going to do or what you're going to say or whatever. Hyperbolic on her fear. She's escalating her own fear for whatever reason, whether that's how she's wired, whether it's for some effect.
It's for show.
Exactly.
Because most of this, I'll tell you, is about control.
It is absolutely 100%, and it's about vindictiveness. Those people don't realize what it is a lot of it is about payback, and they want to have control, and that's part of the payback, right? They didn't feel like they had control, and so now they're going to take it. And they try to control everything, and that it doesn't work that way. That's not going to get you the results you want.
No, because she makes the doctor and dentist appointments on times when she can take them and doesn't give me the opportunity to take them myself or ask me what I think. She'll say, well, you were at work and I had to make the appointment. I was there. Oh, I had to pay this bill on the spot. I didn't have time to call you and talk to you.
Right. And because you're using the app or only using the app, things like that are going to be a lot more difficult to coordinate. There were times with my son's mom and I, we were able to coordinate various appointments, even when things were really strained, his last few years in high school. We were still able to coordinate some things when it came to like his teeth aligners and some various other things. He had to have like a root canal on one of his front teeth, the one he had slipped and lodged in his knee and broke when he was like in middle school.
Right.
So, there was various things that we still had to coordinate, and occasionally we would have to schedule something on the other person's time. We wouldn't try to, but it just came up.
But it was a conversation before it happened? Or if it happened that way, you had a conversation as to the reasoning why?
Right. Well, or even worst case, if we had to schedule it on a time that didn't work for us, but we were hoping worked for the other person, we would schedule it and then be like, hey, does that work for you? If not, okay, I'll reschedule it or I'll find something else that works. You know what I mean? Like there was even though we hated each other and really did not like each other, by that time we could still function, right? We could still do things and get along. And I see that you guys will eventually get there, and maybe it'll take twice as long. Maybe it'll be twice as hard because there's two kids, but you got to hope at some point this fear will stop. And I don't know, maybe you just have to stop engaging with each other, and that'll happen more and more as the kids get older. But it doesn't happen now. And for her to sit there and try to control it and control how you guys talk and how you guys interact is only going to lead to a lot of headaches on her end, right? And headaches for both of you. But she's not going to get the control she wants. You guys are not going to effectively co-parent. And it's just going to lead to more and more situations where there's hidden resentments, right? And this thing lingers on and carries on a lot longer than it should.
It ain't me.
I
ain't trying to grind an axe. I'm just trying to get my 50-50 and move on with my goddamn life. But this person does not want to seem to let go of their death grip on control and will sit there and exaggerate details of her own fear and such. And that's just, it's dumb. And another component of why she cuts me out of the doctor's appointments and shit is she doesn't want my input if it's going to contradict hers, because then a conversation has to be had and a compromise has to be made. But if she has the power to 100%. Cut me out and unilaterally make the decision, she gets what she wants. And she's used to that because with my stepdaughter, her dad's homeless and a druggie, and he's off in a halfway house now, supposedly sobered up to an extent.
Right, but she doesn't
She's had the complete fucking rule of the roost the whole 15 goddamn years. He doesn't have a say. She doesn't give him a say. He has no custody whatsoever. He gets to see his daughter if he's sober and comes over on his own. She states that if he's high, he keeps himself away. But I got to believe that the way she's treating me, she treated him. And that's why he stayed away, because he didn't have the money or the time or the resources or the determination to get 50-50.
Yeah, and she had that control there. And in some level, that vindictiveness, right?
It's just, she's power drunk and she's a control freak. And I'm not saying that just to be a wise ass and spite her. She literally, if you were to objectively analyze a number of the way the decisions are made without my input and how she tries to force her will all the time, she's a control freak. She cannot stand not having all the power.
Sure.
The funny thing about her demand that we use this app and her inability to communicate effectively is I can tell you right now, and I've said this to her.
The Beast
Talked about a parenting app and when it never happened. And I just let things build up for years, but it still made us talk. So there's times where my wife is a worse communicator than a mentally ill person that's been a drug addict.
Right.
What does that say? If she thinks she's so much smarter than me and her plan is such a great idea, how is it that I have a easier co-parenting communication line going with the dysfunctional one than the functional one? Hadouken! These apps, for people in situations like mine, all it's doing is just taking a one-step process and making a 2, 3, and 4-step process and creating all these other headaches, like ignoring the messages, not being able to read their tone, and just these on-the-fly messages that you don't see when there was a conversation to be had, but now the time has passed. So you kind of just basically missed out.
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous, and I hate that society is pushing this shit. I wish these companies could get class action sued for causing undue stress in people's lives by acting like they're the magic fucking cure-all for post-divorce co-parenting. Get over your fucking fear of talking. This is an entire generation, and I hate to put it all on women, but they're initiating the divorces more. 70% of the initiated divorces are by women. So let's just say that 70% of the time, these people that absolutely have to get their way, but they cannot handle even the most tame parts of confrontation. It's conflict avoidance. And you're not handling the problem. You're just burying your head. And that's all these tools are. It's idiotic. Just like kids don't want to have to put the time into their homework, we'll use fucking ChatGTP and other AI outsources to do their fucking homework for them. And the teacher's like, let them. It's helping. No, you're not helping these kids learn to critically think. Does that not seem like a reasonable assessment I've made, that this is giving them too much ability to avoid conflict and learn how to cope?
I don't disagree with you. I know the app side of it is going to say that we're providing tools where for couples that cannot come to an agreement or cannot communicate effectively that allow them to communicate effectively, right? They see themselves as helping people because the conversations will be more tame.
Not necessarily.
Hopefully, right? If they're not, there's repercussions, right? There's stuff that they can go to a judge, and you know what I mean?
But the judge might just be like, you know what, I'm sick of you two. Figure it out. I'm not going to punish either one of you. I'll punish both of you, but figure it out.
Or go to some type of other mediation or some other counseling, some other type of, I don't know what. You know what I mean? So I know they see themselves as an effective tool. Now, you're in a unique situation, right? You don't have a smartphone. You don't have a phone with video capabilities, right?
So that's I think by choice because I choose to live low tech because I don't want everything I'm done listened to and monitored and then converted into advertisements.
Right. Who knows with all of these audio and image files that Google has stored what kind of data mining they're doing on these things? Who knows, right? But I think it's funny that she continues to pay for the top-end service that you won't even ever use, right? You're never going to use that video call feature and transcription part of it. So she's basically throwing money away for a false sense of security, right? One again, to feed that level of control that if anything were to happen, she has control over that situation. She has a recording. She can go to the judge and be like, ha, right? But what does that get her? Like you said, what is the judge really going to do? It doesn't sound like any of your conversations are too out there.
I don't insult her. I don't call her names. I only call her out when she does things that I think affect me and the children adversely in our relationship, and if I accuse her of alienating me. And I don't normally throw that word around unless I feel like I have some pretty good fucking proof, and I make some factual statements to back it up. So, yeah, the app is supposed to make things more helpful. The app makers would argue it's a tool, but I would say it's a tool in the same sense that a fleshlight is to a man whose wife won't fuck him. He wants the intimacy, not just to get off.
I get you.
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
This is Steiny.
And that's the end.